Greetings, fanboys and fangirls. Jared here with another video review from Fanboys Forever. And today we're going to be having a look at the brand new Masterverse, new Eternia, Fisto. So I always love seeing Fisto, definitely one of my favorite visuals for a character in Masters of the Universe. As you can see, I have him alongside my slightly customized Flying Fist He-Man from this same wave. He needed a little bit of help against the powers of Evil Lyn, so I'm excited to get this guy out of the box. I'm really enjoying the artwork on the front. Not really sure who these guys are that he's fighting, but I love seeing more kind of monsters and minions for our heroes to fight. So hopefully these guys will get a release at some point. You can see the figure packaged right in the front with one of his alternate heads, the new Eternia style. And on the side, we can see a little bit more artwork with the kind of more classic new Eternia, actually, He-Man. You can see that he does have his new Eternia logo and the new Eternia loincloth, not the furry underwear. So who knows? I hope that they take another crack at this guy sometime and they can use that new style of body. And with a new head sculpt, it would be incredible. On this side, of course, we get kind of the vanity shot, the painting. I think this is the best artwork on the whole thing myself. I think that's beautiful. Down here, we have more of the new Eternia style, and you can just see that he's kind of on some rocks. On the back, we can see a good look at the figure, including the more classic head with all of his gimmicks, and a little bio. After his hand was severed by Skeletor, Malcolm bonded with the mystic Iron Fist. Now Fisto tracks the nefarious sorcerer across New Eternia in search of revenge. So we do have a little bit of a redux for the New Eternia line there, as they are wont to do with some of these guys. And of course, we do have the barcode down below. All right, let's go ahead and get Malcolm here out of the box. New Eternia Fisto. Of course, we've seen the Masterverse line of 7-inch figures from Mattel kind of take more and more of a turn towards the new Eternia stuff. New Eternia is just Mattel's own way of refreshing old original characters and mixing them up a little bit with some new and unique pieces while still maintaining that classic look and feel. In what has undeniably become the most popular segment of the Masterverse line, New Eternia is kind of starting to take over most of the slots therein. That means that for this wave of figures, there was actually just 3 unique figures, and all 3 were New Eternia, with Flying Fist He-Man and Evil Lyn being the other 2 in this box. But back to the matter at hand, with the home runs that we've seen recently in the New Eternia line, the real question is, can this Fisto kind of keep up that level of quality that we've been seeing? To answer that question, we'll be looking at him today. And before we get started, I do ask that you please subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. This is a great way to keep up with me and everything that I'm up to here on the channel, as I try to provide the most up-to-date Masters of the Universe information and reviews. Not only that, but if you could like the video, that really does help us stay afloat here on Fanboys Forever, and is one of the best things you can do so that discoverability of this video is as high as possible. And of course, don't forget to comment down below and let me know what you think about this new version of Fisto. So with all that out of the way, let's begin. It's very important to note that this Fisto does have 2 completely unique looks when it comes to his head sculpts, and so stick around to make sure that you're able to check out both of those. I decided this time it would be more fun to start out in his classic form. Getting a better look at that head sculpt, we can see that this, of course, is something that they tend to do with these new Eternia figures, is to include a very classic option for the head, just to make sure that you can switch the figure to that if necessary. I will say that I think the sculpt is just about as good as Fisto has ever looked. It's a really robust kind of mullet head sculpt. The hair is excellent, and I really love what they've done with the beard. They've truly maintained so much of what makes that original figure look so cool. However, I do think the one kind of concern I have comes in the department of paint. It does seem that for whatever reason, they've opted to go with pretty much straight up brown for the beard and the hair. This is kind of weird to me because I've always known that Fisto was a redhead. So it's weird to see a ginger go to just having about as brown a hair as you possibly can. I do see some subtle highlights in here that does suggest kind of a red tone, but it is still a little odd. The only other real problem I would have is that the brown doesn't quite match the rest of the beard sculpt under the lip, and it's probably something I'll need to correct myself. So other than kind of the odd choice for changing the color of the hair, I do think it looks really good and could be excused as really more of just a new Eternia type of thing, that's just the look that they were going for. However, I don't really believe that that's the case, because all of the artwork on the box suggests that he was supposed to be as much of a redhead as he ever was. So this tells me that maybe during production something just went awry with the paint, so that's kind of a shame. Looking at the armor itself on the chest, it's actually fairly traditional. One thing that they do add is these cool little bits of fur that's coming out from the shoulder pads. Then you have the big harness around the shoulders that they've simply kind of expanded out and added some little techie bits and bobs to the front. And the same goes for the back, where we have a little holder and a sword, actually. Other than that, it's often what we do see with Fisto for his purple kind of chest armor. And he does have the purple belt. Of course, it's the He-Man belt that they designed for a new Eternia that has more of those techno kind of parts to it. And he is, of course, wearing the brown furry underwear. One area that things do change up is his metal arm, which is completely metal in this case. The original Fisto had just flesh tone up here for the shoulder, and then down here at the actual fist it changed. But nope, this guy has a completely mechanical arm. So I actually think that's pretty cool, and definitely the kind of new Eternia thing that I like to see. The fist itself is fairly traditional, with the one big change being these spikes here at the end of the fist. So I like that as well. I really do like the mechanical details on the arm, and I especially like that the elbow here actually kind of has more of a robotic kind of hinge to it. So I think that's a cool touch. Other than that, the boots are just about as traditional as you can get, with maybe a little more brown than we're used to seeing with Fisto. So I think that it works really well. Also, Fisto typically doesn't usually have a whole lot of accessories in the weapons category, because usually it's just, well, you're supposed to use the fist. But this time he has come with kind of this big hammer, and I actually think this is really cool looking. Now, it does use that weird swirly plastic effect that is supposed to get it to be kind of a faux metallic look, and I think that your mileage may vary on that. I'm not the biggest fan in the world of how Mattel does this process, but I think it looks pretty cool, and I do like that they added purple wraps there for him to hang on to it a little bit better. And we'll get into some extra functionality that has in just a moment. It's also worth noting that he does have this sword right here, so I think that's a cool touch as well. It's not entirely necessary, but it's nice for him to get another extra weapon accessory. Articulation is exactly what you would think it would be, with of course our big concern being, does it have those drop down hips? And yes, they do. And with the longer loincloth, you would think it would inhibit the articulation more, but no, they've cut it at just the right place where you can get the high kicks. The only place that he really is inhibited is when you try to bring the arm up. The shoulder pads can kind of block things out, but you can see that they kind of flex and allow for it. But the big area that kind of struggles is right here at the bicep. Because that gauntlet is so large, that is as much as you can get. So it's not even close to 90 degrees. I probably would have sacrificed some of the sculpt and look of this to try to get that articulation to work a little bit better. But I think it's fine, because I mean, typically with Fisto anyway, you're going to have that arm outstretched. So I'm not too upset by it, but you would think that they would be a little more concerned about the engineering there to make sure that he had a little bit better range than that. But like I said, there's definitely more to that fist than meets the eye and his accessory, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. First, I definitely want to switch out his head sculpt, and we're going to use his new Eternia specific head. And here is something really cool. I actually think this is a great kind of original design and update of Fisto's look. I really like that he has the long hair that's put up in kind of the ponytail, and then we have the beard with the white in the front of it. So they've aged him up just a little bit too. Not only that, but he has the 2000X style of armor right around the eyes. What's interesting is that I really wish that that armor piece was somehow removable, or it clipped on somehow or another. I know it wouldn't look as good as if it was, but I really would have liked to have put it on here to have gotten more of the 2000X Fisto. I think that really would have been cool, but it's a shame that that wasn't removable, or could be switched between the figures. It's really hard for me to say which one of these head sculpts really looks the best. I just think it's just a matter of preference about how classic you want to go. I think they're both just really nice, so you can't go wrong with either one of them. One more accessory is that if you do want him to clench the other fist, he does come with that, so it won't hold an accessory, but it is available. So I definitely want to show one of the coolest gimmicks of this figure, and something I didn't expect. You can actually detach this fist. So you can see it just has a peg right there, and we can actually go to his weapon and remove these. Once you do that, you can see that it easily plugs right in to where the fist was, and voila, now he has kind of a spiked arm right there, and I think that that looks really cool. Of course, hilariously, that does mean that you can put the fist then on the end of the hammer. So if you want him to do kind of a non-traditional way of using the fist, you can totally do that. And that does mean that the kind of mace or kind of ball at the end can also go on the hand, and I actually think that looks really cool. So you can definitely get some very interesting combinations. Even though it may look like it, this is not the same piece from the Man War figure. Of course, to me, it's very important to do some fun comparisons. And the sad thing is that I never got any of the classics versions of Fisto. And unfortunately, it's because there was some kind of production problem that led to them not being able to make too many of the original classics version of this character. And because I couldn't afford aftermarket prices, it really did leave me with some sour grapes over that, so I just ignored the Filmation version that they came out with later. But eventually it was kind of given what I considered at the time an apology figure by Mattel, and that was the Masters of the Universe Revelation version of Fisto. It's very interesting now to go back and look at that, because you can see just how much shorter he is than this new version. And that's something that I've definitely noticed about these brand new Eternia figures that we're seeing, is they're all really big. So that's a very interesting thing. It's also interesting to see just how much more red they portrayed the hair as, which is animation accurate. And then yet another version is our Origins version. It's kind of funny, it almost looks like a height chart of the same guy or something, but he just happened to dye his hair over here. So there we go. Now, of course the heads are all interchangeable, so I'll show you some fun tricks that you can do with the brand new one. And if you do want more of that classic look, you can use that Revelation head, and I actually think that looks really cool. Then if you want a look that may even be considered too classic, you can go ahead and put that Origins head right on there too. Keep in mind that Origins is always interchangeable pretty much with the Masterverse figures, which is pretty awesome looking. It's kind of bizarre, but hey, I kind of like it. You can always take the brand new Fisto head and put it on the old Revelation Fisto body. Keep in mind that this new Fisto does utilize the bulkier kind of He-Man style of body that they developed a few waves back, so that helps give it that new bulkier look that I like. You can sort of use the old tunic with it, but he does have kind of an unintentional crop top because of it, since this chest is quite a bit taller than the old one. However, once you put the new head on there, it actually looks pretty good, and if you pose him right, maybe it's not so noticeable, but I think that the new chest armor looks plenty classic enough. So I definitely think it's more than fair to wonder about this guy's ability to ride in Stridor, because I do know that a whole lot of the Masterverse figures are able to utilize playsets and vehicles from Origins. Plus, with this guy's added height and everything, I just wonder how well it would work. So let's try it out. And you know, I certainly think that it works pretty much well enough. He certainly is big in there, but it works. So it's definitely not perfect, but I think it gets the job done plenty well enough. So if you have one of these guys, and I think they've hit as deep a discount as possible, going down as low as I think $6 or $7, I think, for a Stridor, there's really no excuse at this point. If you don't have this guy, just go ahead and grab one, and hey, there you go. You'll have a brand new vehicle for your new Eternia Fisto. So in the end, I really do think that this is an awesome new Eternia figure. They've done a great job with this. I almost sound like a broken record when I review these guys, because I tend to say a lot of the same things. Usually my new Eternia reviews have tended to go like this. Wow, these are some really cool new visual changes. Gee, it's great that they have this extra accessory that I can turn them back into kind of the traditional version. And also, oh man, it's so hard for me to decide which version to go with. So I'm sorry that I tend to kind of repeat some of this stuff, but Mattel is awfully consistent when it comes to the design on these guys. I also think it's not lost on them at all that it's becoming more and more obvious that New Eternia for them, at least for the last few years, has been where they put a whole lot of their creative passion and their energy. This is, I can tell, kind of their line in the sand, to where the new regime at Mattel really wants to be known for these guys as the successors to classics. I do think it's admirable that they keep reaching for that goal. You know, I think one funny question that we can ask ourselves is, I know I'm not the only one who wasn't able to get a Classics Fisto all those years ago, and the question is, has Mattel finally made up for whatever weird production error occurred to where they couldn't come out with enough Fisto to meet demand? Have they finally done enough makeup figures to make up for that error? Well, I think it's safe to say that each Fisto has kind of served its own purpose, but I do think that this guy probably is the best looking one that they've done. So I would say that I don't even really care that much about getting the Classics version anymore. Certainly this guy is probably a little big for Masters of the Universe Classics figures, but I don't even really necessarily care anymore. The world of New Eternia has become so enticing lately that I'm not as worried about completing different parts or characters that I couldn't get from Classics, which is kind of odd for me, but it's certainly a relief and it's a good feeling. I think the biggest issue I'm going to have now is deciding which head to display this guy with. They both look so good. I love this classic version here, but that New Eternia one, there's something just wonderfully heavy metal about it. Almost like this guy got lost at a biker bar or a ZZ Top impersonator convention. Either way, I'm certainly glad that he's shown up here in the line, and I think he makes just a great rendition of Fisto. It makes me excited to see what Mattel does for any number of other heroic characters in the Masterverse line. So yeah, don't sleep on this guy. He was about $23.99 or so, and I got him in the case at Entertainment Earth, who had these guys in first. And remember friends, even though this does it for my review, I do ask that you please subscribe to the channel and like the video. Both these things really help us out. And of course, keep your eyes peeled as I go back and do even more reviews for a couple of things that I'd missed in the past. And with all that out of the way, God bless you and yours, and I'll see you on Fanboys Forever. Fanboy out.